Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Bogey Golf Podcast, hosted by Dave and Johnny. We've got a very special episode today. Matt Sandercock, Director of Golf for Mount Juliet Golf Club. They were the host of they are to be the host of the Irish Open for 2020, dependent upon this coronavirus situation. Matt gave us a lot of time, way more than I had anticipated, Dave.
Yeah, and the conversation we pre-recorded, so it goes down a couple of rabbit holes around the PGA Tour, the European Tour, and then we get into kind of the region as well, the Irish region, and we talk about young pros trying to qualify for the Irish Open and a little bit on a couple of high-promising amateurs and where Matt feels that these guys, young amateur or young professionals and young amateurs, should go with their game. We talked about a lot of stuff here. It's a long episode, so hope you enjoy.
Now, guys, I'm delighted to say that we are joined by Matt Sandercock. He is the Director of Golf at Mount Juliet. Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Johnny. Yourself? All well?
Yeah, good. Surviving. How's the course looking out there? I'm missing it.
It's lovely. It's lovely out there, to be honest. Yeah, it's very green, as you can imagine. It's all looking in good shape. I mean, we'd be looking, what would we now? We'd been 25 days away from the Pro-Am. We would have been set at the Irish Open. So the course is ready for it there, which is a bonus, to be honest, that the course is in such good shape going into this current situation.
Yeah, it's like that forbidden fruit. You're saying it looks great and you're not used to it being not played on it.
No, it's very strange looking out at a sunny Saturday in May and there's no one here to enjoy what we have to offer. It's very, very peculiar, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely missing it anyway myself. For anyone that may not know, would you be able to give a bit of background on yourself and how you came to Mount Juliet?
Yeah, so I grew up in Devon and Cornwall, played for county sides over that side, and then got a job at Bogey Castle Hotel, which is a 5-star resort, when I was 17 as a golf pro. So I turned pro on my 18th birthday, so at that stage I was the youngest you could be. And 5 years there, which was actually 5 years 2 days ago, there was the anniversary that I then left and went to Sunningdale for another 7 years to work for Keith Maxwell. So that was the big move for me, moving from Devon and Cornwall up to England's #1 golf course, to be honest, or golf courses, there's two there. So yeah. Very lucky. And then from that, I just continued through my PGA, made some great friends in the industry. Paul McGinley being one of those who then put Mount Juliet on the map for me and said to take a look at it. So I did. And then 3 years down the line, nearly now, here I am over in Kilkenny. Yeah, so I moved the family and everyone else over. So it's been good.
What was that change like from Sunningdale to Thomastown?
Yeah, I mean, I think first year was probably the hardest I've ever had to deal with of everything from suppliers to course to different membership style altogether, like your private members club, just outside of London, the Ascot area. So very wealthy, very active membership playing every day that we'd be part of in the membership with teaching and playing, to a very different style membership over here with the resort. So in a rural area rather than a built up. So there's a lot of differences. First year was tough, I think. And then once we moved off the estate and found our own home, that was a nice way to change things.
Is it a more demanding, like the membership down there obviously is quite local as well. But is it more was it more demanding coming from South West London side?
It's very different demands, to be honest. When you come from a pure members club, the questions are different to what you receive at more of a member cross resort. You see, sure. With having two golf clubs as well at Sunningdale, you'd have one that would be just for members every day, near enough. So there's always a member able to play, whereas it's very different when there's only one golf course and you have a corporate event or a charity event and then members as well. And with obviously like Johnny we're talking there earlier, with houses on the estate as well, having to play in the evenings potentially when they want to play, and as a group, there's a little bit of different management there. So
sure.
And maybe like obviously don't want to go too far into, but probably socioeconomically, it's a different demand is placed based on like Southwest London affluence as well. Was that tricky to navigate over there as opposed to here?
Well, yeah, I think that was difficult initially for me to get my head around the changes in that. That was a strange one. I mean, now you look at it, it's definitely more in my forefront of my mind in the situation we're in now. I mean, I would have been sat at Sunningdale, although the guys aren't working. There's once it's ready, and the golf course is a very different base, so it doesn't need quite the maintenance that a Parkland would in Ireland. Like yesterday, I was on a call there and I was looking at hailstones, and it was the 1st of May. Like I didn't get too much of that happening in southwest London in May. So there's a few changes, weather as well as economically. So it's been a different one. It's been a test, that's for sure, and I think it's something I've learned from. And I've always kind of stated that you shouldn't really stay anywhere more than sort of 7-8 years. So I think in our industry, you get very stale.
Sure.
You can become a little bit too acclimatized to where you are, and it's good to stretch yourself. And like I'm 32 now, and I've done the biggest club in England. This is a fantastic club here in Ireland. So it's just where you really want to go with your careers, I think, and learning. And director of golf for me was a big step to go to. So yeah,
it's 2 very high profile clubs for someone at that age. It's not common you'll see a director of golf in their early 30s at a resort or being in the position you were at Sunningdale. Normally it's they kind of all, I suppose traditionally the director of golf might have been more kind of moved away from the playing side into the office, fatigued of all the
yeah. I think I was fortunate.
Here you are.
I turned pro when I was 18. When I was 17, I started there, so I left when I was just 22. So Sunningdale, Keith really took the big shot on me there, I guess, because I'd been sort of head assistant at a 5-star hotel, so to take me into a member background. And that level, it was a funny one because I actually applied for the job and then totally forgot I applied for the job. And then it was like you get a phone call and it's Keith Maxwell from Sunningdale saying, "Do you want an interview?" On a Friday. I was an Exeter.
And you're thinking, oh, which one of your mates is this?
I was thinking, in my head. And I had to have an interview next morning at 8:45 in Sunningdale. So that's 4.5 hour drive from my house at that time. So I went up, had an interview, drove back, and I had to go back for a playing interview, which is pretty old school these days now. Like
a playing interview, really?
Yeah, you had to be played in at Sunningdale. So you had to play with Keith realistically.
You had to have game to play to get in.
Yeah.
Basically.
And we were sat in the bar having a coffee, and then he comes in and says, "Right, you ready?" And that was it. There's no practice, like, because Sunningdale, you play ready, so you go and then straight to the first tee off we went. And
wow.
It was a whirlwind kind of month. It was good. I hit my tee shot out of bounds on 16, which was quite. If you knew the new course of Sunningdale, it's not the best tee shot. And then hold my 6-iron for my second shot to like save that hole. And then ended up finishing 2-3. So I finished birdie eagle. It was just the weirdest. I finished par birdie eagle and I lost the ball on one of them. It was just you kind of go, yeah, something must be working on my favour this day. So I have really fond memories there, and that's where really it changed my career path, I guess, and moved to Devon and Cornwall and stopped me potentially staying there for years on end.
Wow. So you mentioned that you built up a relationship with Paul McGinley. How did that come about? Obviously, like, he's a Ryder Cup captain.
Yeah, well, Sunningdale again. I mean, Paul's a member there, so we had quite a lot of the players would be members there. You'd have Sam Torrance was a good friend. I'd play a lot of golf with Sam at the time there, and the membership there would play golf with us as the assistants, and you'd gamble with them. You'd end up helping them out, and I remember helping Paul a little bit at times, and there's a few others. Anthony Wall was a great influence around the place. Tony Johnson. These guys were big names, and me and Paul just kind of hit it off. And then I started just helping out as a young lad a little bit. Then I had to house sit for him when he'd go away. And it kind of just spiraled into we were spending New Year's Eve, my family with his family, and we just become friends, I think. I was kind of fortunate enough. I think I never struggled with the starstruck aspect, which you would see a lot at Sunningdale because you see such high profile visitors and guests. And Paul was Paul, come across him, he's such a nice guy and down to earth, and he's a Ryder Cup captain and he's held the winning putt and he's won on the tour a few times and all these things, but he's a good guy. He's just a good guy.
Yeah, there seems to be that general just down to earth element of that generation of golfer from Dublin. Now, I actually think it's from that stems from their background. You can kind of even see with Paul Carrington, Peter Lowry. They come from working class families. Effectively what were very working class areas in Dublin.
Yeah.
And they all grew up on the same type of courses with the same type of old school membership, almost raised by the golf club rather than raised by a country club, which is a very distinct difference.
Yeah, it's good as well that way. I mean, it'd be a similar way to I grew up as a junior there, and you get dropped up at 8 o'clock when your mum's going to work and picked up at 5:30, or sometimes have to wait if you can sneak the third round in for the day, sort of thing. So,
and if one of the old guys has to have a word with your dad,
yeah,
you're in trouble. Like,
yeah. And I think it learned for me there. I was playing in the men's club team at the age of 11, so I was playing against other clubs when I was 11 years old. So I'm having to go away with these guys, mix the other teams, and you're like, I'm 11, like, you know. It was the strangest teeing off first time when I was 11, and it was in like a county finals thing I was called up for last minute. Like, you're 11. And you look back at it and go, that's just mad. Like, my eldest son's 5 now. I can't imagine in 6 years' time.
6 years
he's on the team playing somebody.
And with
been beaten by an 11-year-old. That's the other side.
The guy was
standing up in the tee box.
He had a good partner, so it was all right. Foursomes golf at the age of 11 with probably a 40-year-old adult at the time was different.
And with that kind of rise, did the tour ever kind of impact you at all?
No, the tour when you're a kid is brilliant. And I think as I got older, I found I actually enjoyed teaching more. The enjoyment from teaching, I had way more enjoyment from teaching and seeing someone progress than I have from playing. And I've played good golf courses, played good golf, shot some good scores. But I think when you see someone improve and you improve somebody's game and their improvement, and that's what really struck me when I was around 15. I could help others a lot more than, I was a good golfer, obviously, but I think the fact you could tell somebody something and it worked meant for me that my interest was purely really in the coaching element at that stage, and that's when I focused my ton of attention to that.
Great. So now, Matt, like that you're saying with the move, and I suppose the traditional move to director of golf is the move to the office from the boat shop, give or take. Is that something that you massively miss because that's the beast that you like so much about it? Now do you have a chance to do that down there, or can you take on a couple of young players and stuff?
I think it's been a case of when I come in as a transition and things were changing and had to be changed, and the club's in a good place. It's really settled into a nice way now, and I think I'd like to get back out coaching now, and that's what I want to do. And it's definitely a big ambition of mine to get back just coaching. Doesn't need to be a top player. Like I've done that. I've taught the guys on the tour. I've helped those guys. I've helped Walker Cup players. I don't need that. I just want to. You kind of just want to put the smile back on a few guys' faces by moving their thumb half an inch and giving them a half decent grip or something. Could be just as much of a thrill, to be honest. So the teaching is something I'd like to get back into, and the club fitting element, I really enjoy doing that. So they're the two things I'd want to primarily bring back into golf.
Yeah, well, listen, once these restrictions lift, I'm always around for a lesson if you want.
Yeah, and always welcome. I mean, that's where we are, and I think we introduced that back when I come in. I introduced club fitting for the members. It wasn't previously offered, so we have TaylorMade and Callaway. That was, again, a good start. There's brands back in, and members have appreciated that, I think. I mean, Johnny can probably answer that easier than I can, that for the membership to have the clubs to try and test, it's a good platform for everyone, and nice way for people to see the technology. Yeah,
I mean, even the last round of golf that I played down in Mount Juliet, you gave me a TaylorMade driver head to just play around with. So having that kind of facility, from my point of view, where I'm looking at, what kind of driver should I be playing against what's currently in my bag, definitely helps me look at where my game is at and where I can improve.
It's big differences, so it's positive, and I think that's where golf has set itself apart, is the custom fit element and the service level. And I think once you get those two right, once you can provide a service and improve somebody's game without them having to do anything, that's always a good start.
Could we chat a bit about the move to Mount Juliet? We'll get on to kind of the Irish Open and stuff, but obviously it's a Jack Nicklaus design course. You were at Sunningdale, so what was the attraction to Mount Juliet?
Well, I think really the attraction to Mount Juliet was, it's like I was saying at the start, I think you can get stale somewhere. And my career was in a really good spot. I'd have been 29 at Sunningdale. I was senior assistant, so I was number 2 there to Keith. Yeah, I mean, that was great. I'd done my 20s. I just had my first child. Yeah, first child was here. Second child was nearly there at that stage. And it was time for a change. I think Mount Juliet, and the way Paul spoke highly of the venue, and championship golf course, obviously you look at the roll call of winners, I mean, it's phenomenal. So the interest was there. A lot of my college golf was played at a Jack Nicklaus course in St Million, so there's an interest level for me there. It was really, I'd been in hotels, I'd been to membership, kind of wanted to go back into the hotel membership world, and a venue I could host a tournament. I'd done the Seniors Open in 2015, so I'd done a major event there. wanted to try and do another tournament somewhere. Hence, the Irish Open was always the main. I would say you'd have it as the carrot would have been my thing. Would have been that's what I was. That was the big draw. We looked at a couple of events my first year, and then now the Irish Open. So this is the one really. I mean, in Europe, outside of the BMW at Wentworth and the majors, there's nothing bigger. So, and Ireland embraces these events. So for those kind of things, if you go into a great course, the investment in the hotel, Tetra Pak were doing a great job in bringing in so much to the venue. It's an exciting time, and I want to be part of that. So it made sense. And the family was young enough to move. So if not now, I would have been stuck, I think, when they're in school.
When the conversations kind of started around, so obviously Mount Juliet was pegged to host the Irish Open for this year, which has been postponed or cancelled.
Yeah, just postponed at the minute. Yeah, get the date soon.
So it is. So I wanted to get onto that. I may as well get into it now.
Mm-hmm.
As a Rolex Series event that is scheduled to go on at some point in 2020. It's not a case of Mount Juliet 2021.
Well, at the minute, it's just they're all postponed. There's no date attached. It's a postponed event, and as soon as it's safe to do so, and for the tour to travel, and the players, I assume, to travel, then we'll get dates sorted from there. But it's very much a case of, we're looking forward to hosting it, and we really can't wait. And members, like I say, it's the same. Everyone wants this event. We can't wait to have it. Such a big event for the community, the region. It was really disappointing from a purely selfish factor that the Irish Open's not going ahead in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
But for the greater good, this really had to be done, and it was a great call to make. They made it in good timing, and the fact we're in a good stead now. It's a great benefit going forward as well that the course it's ready. We can sharpen the course up and get it ready when we're due to host this, and we really hope we get the same guys. I mean, the field was shaping up with Rory and Ram and Shane. I mean, who else do you want? You're probably going to get your Fleetwoods. I mean, I just want Petro because he's bound to say something. Yeah. So I think those guys would be great to have around. And if I'm honest, I think it'd be a great boost. So it was going to be Cat Laughs weekend in Kilkenny. So the whole of Kilkenny was going to be pretty much a party, I would say, for a good week on a bank holiday weekend. Guarantee the sun.
It probably made it harder. The place was starting to look really, really, really tour shape as well. When the call was made, it was just probably on that precipice had gone from the heavy sanding works that you'd done.
It got into leaves starting to form. You know, it's you look at the trees that are just like big sticks for a good few months in anticipation for kind of February. Because you can't do too much on the parkland in the winter. So we got a load of work done in January, February time. The greens team did an amazing job. And then it just kind of snowballed, to be honest. The whole situation kind of just snowballed out of nowhere. And then it was made, the call was made. And then we go straight into the lockdown kind of scenario. And the sun shone for 2 weeks. And it's been perfect. So it was tough, but it was the right call.
I don't think people kind of appreciate what it takes probably to get even a course that's in as good condition as Mount Juliet up to scratch, even to go to that next level for a tour event. I remember I was at the Inside the Ropes event, the Commercial Partners event, and we played a tour scramble there. And the work that was being done on the practice ground was absolutely startling. Like the amount, the guys were there we were there at 7 o'clock, and the guys were sanding at 7. They were hollow coring and sanding at 7, and they were still doing that at about 5 o'clock when we left that evening, and that was just the practice range.
Yeah, that had just been the practice ground. I mean, the guys, they put in a mountain of work and a bodies of work, and I think personally that coming out of even a situation we're in and the Irish Open, greenkeepers have to be commended for the work they've done through this whole period. I mean, it's got to be one of the worst winters on record for weather, and they come in and face this, and crews are shortened, and the guys are putting in such a body of work. And like even now, I look at the plans that were set in place, and the stands were going up, and the 18th grandstand will probably be going up now. And you look out the window, and it's not a grandstand; there's actually nobody. So it's just a strange mindset. But the thing we've learned from it is so many things in planning already. So much you would have gained from the planning process, although it's been postponed. We now have probably maybe better plans or slightly refined plans for something we can maybe offer better 3 months down the line, or if it's next year, then next year we can do something that might be more refined to what we were getting feedback from. So experience when we open here this year. They're going to be playing a tour golf course when a tour event should have been happening. So there's a benefit there for the membership and the guests, and also the fact we know we can do this. We know we can turn it around now. We know what could be needed to improve it for the event. So if we can get the likes of Rory and Ram and that signing up again, like, we're going to have some event, that's for sure.
Just on, before we get into kind of the tour, actually the chat with the tour, how do you think the course was going to stand up to that standard of player and that length of player? Because it's not the longest place in the world. You can lengthen it obviously to about 7,003. It's going to, if it goes this year, it's going to be harder conditions, drier conditions. Ball's going to run. How will the course stand up? Like, what's the protection that you can put in there? Like, it's lush, it's green. So what can you do?
Plans we had in place was the rough is what it would be now. They're not going to get out of that on too many greens very quick, and if it's firm, they're not going to stop either. So purely be hitting fairways around here. If they play it this year, it wouldn't be much different if they play it in May, I would say. The only thing you're going to have change is wind direction. If it gets late in the year and the wind direction is the way around, Johnny would know in the autumn and in winter time when the wind changes. The May date suits the player. But I do think with the level of rough and the requirements we were looking at around the green side with approaches and the firmness of greens, I mean, you're not going to stop these guys now. There'll be 20 plus under will win. I mean, they took Lahinch apart with 17 under, was it, I believe? And I think Robert Rock shot 60?
Yeah. 60, yeah.
60, like, if you can do that around Lahinch, if there's no wind, then these guys now, if you have a soft green and they hit a fairway, it's a birdie. Like, our greens are good enough to say on hand on heart, like some of the best greens you'll get around. So if they can throw darts, the biggest fear for us was the biggest fear when we talk about this now was in October. We were thinking of having soft greens. How on earth was that even relevant when I look at it now? But that was our concern, was it would be soft conditions. And at the end of the day, I think everyone says, oh, you don't want them shooting 25 under. Why not? Like, if Rory goes out there and shoots 61, 61, 61, 61, he set a tournament record, he set a world record. Like, I'm over the moon with that.
Yeah.
You get the right winner. And if you get the right guy, promote the venue from his side, which would be our biggest thing, is if you follow the winners we've had of Tiger, Ernie, Torrance, Faldo, Langer, you'd say that one of the top guys are going to win again around here. Yeah.
You were even saying, I think it was toward the end of last summer, you were at an Adidas event with Sergio Garcia, and he asked you, he's like, does he still hold the course record there? Yeah. So, I mean, if Rory goes out and shoots a bunch of 61s, it's the kind of course that, you know, a few years down the line, he's still going to want to know and still be very proud of the fact he has a course record.
He remembered hitting a shot into the 10th. So to have a guy like Sergio remember your venue and how he took apart the golf course on that morning and how he shot the score and does he have the course record, kind of puts in perspective the question there previous about making the move over. When you have guys like that talk about the venue you're potentially going to go to at that stage and the venue I'm at, it kind of puts in esteem where Mount Juliet really was for these guys. And that's 20 years ago, it's going to be realistically. I mean, it's 25 years ago, in July, that Sam Torrance won the Irish Open. So like, that was our last Irish Open for 25 years. So I think now the time it's right. The course is ready. The team is good around it. And the course will hold up to these guys. And I think the longer, like, I would rather push a few tees forward, change the hole up completely. Now, that's not what was going to happen or was even planned to happen. But sometimes, you know, when you go to a golf course and they put you off the front tees, you haven't got a clue how to play it. There's kind of that scenario. So something to look at anyway. But it's good. Look forward to the event.
Does the tour in general then? So when Simon Alice comes over, who's the tournament director, he pops over and he's done multiple site visits. Is that a consideration in the conversations you have, or is it simply just the logistics of hosting the tour venue or hosting the actual tour event?
Well, the guys, once they're here, the event will be held here. So then it becomes down how they want the course to play. Mike Stewart was championship director, I think it was at the time, was his title for us here. And he kind of decides the par of the course, the setup, if the rough's going to be cut in, cut out, length. And I mean, he was over the moon with it here. The agronomy team there, led by Eugene Hennessy, he was really happy with the condition of the golf course, the fact that mats were actually lifted. We had mats to go and play in mid-March to play off of, and they were happy for the mats to come off for us to have a dividend program instead. The course was really healthy at that stage. It still is. So those guys make the call really, and then we answer from there. Having the resort is a big benefit for the tour players as well, having bedrooms on site and a practice facility out the window. It's very logistically simple for them here. It's an obvious event, motorway to the door, 125 bedrooms, city 20 minutes away. It's nice for them, I would say, to organise.
Yeah, they always talk about Turkey being like that as well. That the event in Turkey is so well run because everything is literally shuttled to the venue and don't have to budge. They don't have to find a restaurant. They don't have to get courtesy cars. They don't have to do anything. They literally stroll out of bed onto the practice read, onto the practice green, and onto the first. So obviously that is a huge bonus for them, because I suppose Lahinch is obviously logistically a little bit different from last year, for example.
Yeah,
the whole place is booked up for a bank holiday weekend.
I mean, when we got the announcement of the date, Cat Lass was obviously in the diary as well. So Kilkenny was pretty much on a sellout status, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was fine, and we were working great, and the council were brilliant with us, and we were doing some good work with them, and the fire service as well as the Gardaí. So we were doing well, and everything was bang on track, and it'll be the same when it comes around. We'll get it back, and like I said, we learned a few things to improve on, and I think that's really where the positives are.
Right.
So where does that process start for 2020, for example? At what stage do you feel that the tour are going to call up Mount Juliet and say, Matt, we're going to go for this date? The USPGA has been very ballsy in terms of their date setting.
Yeah.
What do you need, I suppose, to logistically, because you're going to have social distancing with greenkeeping staff, for example, for quite some time.
Yeah.
To get the course into. So what's the minimum date that you need to have notification from the tour?
I would say at this stage there isn't even a date. I would say ownership would be in discussion with the tour on this. The big thing really is crowds, movement of traffic. It's all depending on the government perspective and view, and the crowds, the way it can work for players to get here. I mean, it's a European tour, but it's international. Rory, for instance, would have been flying in from the States. So if he can't come in, that's the quarantine for 14 days. Is the quality of field going to be there? So there's a lot of bits into that. Whether we would know that next month or August, I don't know. It would really depend on, I assume, how successful the US tour starts up on the 11th of June. And then when they start the rest of the tours, because there's just so many different venues at the minute looking for events, and the Scottish obviously has a Rolex as well looking to get in, and then you have Ryder Cup and FedEx as well this year. There's so much in the schedule as to when that date would be available could be the one, and that would be totally out of my hands. That would be a tour and ownership, and that's when we would know. As soon as safe, I would say, as soon as safe and they're confident in. Last thing you want to do is say we're going to go ahead on August and 12th, and all of a sudden you're on another shutdown period or a restriction. So there's not going to be any urgent announcement, that's for sure, because the safety of people is far more important than when we host the Irish Open, unfortunately, from my personal point of view. But generally, we need to make sure everyone's safe. If they're going to be visiting here, we need to make sure they can get here safe, get home safe. There's no risk, or as limited risk as possible, on any more virus spread. We've all been off the golf course for 6 weeks now by the time of the lockdown, so we don't want to be introducing players from all over Europe and then reintroduce this spread, say, later in the year. We want to make sure everybody's safe before that happens. And I'd say that's the same across all sports. I would say even the calendar announcement last night, or from on the tee shot there, said about any dates, they're all going to be dependent on safety and how it performs. And I'd love to have the date now. I'd love to be able to say to everybody we're hosting it on whenever it is chosen. It's such a positive story, and everyone wants positive stories now. We've done the downspin, so I'd really like to be able to to bring out some great news of when the event is, but I don't know when it is myself. So if I knew, I would be more than happy to let people know. But there's no date at this stage. It's only postponed, so that's positive that we are going to be hosting this Irish Open. And the standard of player out there now, and they're going to be chomping at the bit to play. So there's no fear of the guys wanting to play golf. And I think once we get that going in the green light, we'll be ready to do so.
That's great.
Okay,
Dave?
There is one more thing that I want to know, and it was in relation to, we were talking just there about having everything on site and a resort, and the need for, say, if we take the US model that they're kind of the PGA Tour model, that they are going to test people before they leave, test people when they arrive at the venue. Do you think that or would you hope that the European Tour would look at a venue like Mount Juliet where it's all enclosed, so everyone's in one place? Will they look at that more favorably than, say, if it was a non-resort course where they didn't have everyone concentrated into one place? Is it more of a risk or less of a risk for them, and would it influence their decision?
Well, I'd say it's probably like a 50-50, really, isn't it? I mean, if everyone's in one space and one person gets it, it's worse. But if there's two people in the area who've got it, it could be just as bad. So I don't think that'll affect their decision. I think the decision will purely be made on when it's safe for all parties. It's great we have a resort. I mean, when you look at the plans at the minute with gyms and swimming pools closed down, players are going to want that. Yeah. So the player power is going to pull a little bit in regards to resort aspect. Now, obviously, the tournament wouldn't be held before phase 5 anyway, so that wouldn't be a big thing. But at the same time, the contamination risk of everyone in the same restaurant, so social distancing, if we've now got to sit 140 players or 135 players.
Fight for the breakfast table in the morning.
Yeah, it's how you get around that logistic. Now, that would be more beneficial for the players if they're all on one site and it can all be delivered to their room or whatever the way around it ends up panning out. If that's the levels we go to. But
yeah, I thought it was nothing but a benefit, actually, to be honest, in my own head, was because if you have everyone tested before they arrive, that means obviously you have a level of certainty that everyone is okay, at which point you can effectively have a mini quarantine.
You would. You'd almost have quarantine. I mean, here's different. Yeah. The houses on the estate. So there's homeowners live here, so you'd have to test them every morning because you could have different people come in and stay.
God.
So there'd be another aspect there. That's say 90 houses roughly. So you'd have to test all of them morning and evening near enough as to who's coming in at the gates. Then you look at the staff needed to service all of them across 3 different outlets. You'd be talking probably 100 staff each day just for the players, maybe. You have caddies to bring in, so 140 players, 140 caddies. I think the number we were looking at, even behind closed doors event they discussed, would still be over 500 people without spectators because of the television cameras, the caddies, the players, the scorers. It's an incredible amount of people.
Yeah.
It's not just the players. The players you could monitor, but it's the other.
It's a complete rabbit hole that you go down, in that you come up with a solution. You think that like a resort is going to be better, and then you realize the amount of people that are interacting with the resort on a daily basis, and all of a sudden you're into, as you said, up to 600 people now to take care of the tour event.
It is a big thing, and I think for us we had Golf World, Golf America with the channel over there coming over to do it. So those guys traveling, there's so much logistical. I wouldn't want to be a tour operator or an airlines person or anything like that right now, because I'm moving groups domestically, let alone trying to figure that plan out. The players will want to play though. That's the main thing. And as soon as safe, I'm pretty sure they'll be ready to play. A lot of them will be doing their swing works and whatever in their off season. It's strange because a lot of guys that have had 2 off seasons, it's the guys that were on a good run of form will be hit most. Yeah. Your Van Royens, he was flying it. I mean, that guy there, it could be a big stumble for him where he could just hit the accelerator and improve again. It might regenerate a few guys that were struggling. The whole tour card will be different this year, how they secure it, I'd imagine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an odd one. Even Ryder Cup point scoring would have been obviously a big part of the point scoring for the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, especially given what time of the schedule you'd have been in. you would have
we would have
known pretty straight away who was going to make that team.
Yeah, we'd have been the second Rolex event, I believe it would have been at that stage. And being obviously the year it's in it, you'd have had your likes of Garcias and Stenson and Rose. They weren't doing that great. So there's every chance they could have wanted to pitch up at Mount Juliet and get their points up to play in that Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of what players we may have enticed that you may not always get. So it'd be brilliant if we can still get that. And I think if golfers aren't playing, they're still going to want to play next year. And like with Garcia's memories of the place, it'll be great. I mean, he'd be like a hero of mine growing up. So
yeah,
if Garcia pitched up and played, like, that'd be fantastic. And the leaderboards now, they're so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
the money is just attracting the best players. Like even the likes of, it's becoming more of an option for US players who are mid-tier, who might struggle to make $1 million in the US, who can win tournaments here.
Yeah, and easily. The comparison is that the European Tour has got so much stronger as well. It's a very strong tour now, and if they did go head to head with Americans, you see it in the Ryder Cups. There's not a golfing class. It's just maybe a smaller field at the top of the leaderboard in Europe, whereas in the US, the density of player. I mean, you look at the Monday Q scores over there, and it blow your mind. Like how they don't win on tours is astonishing. You see like Sir Wolf and Morikawa coming out and Hovland, and they're at college and they're winning. So I don't know how I would want to be competing at that stage.
Yeah, I just remember Brooks Koepka been interviewed about Monday qualifying, and he said if he had to qualify for every event through Monday qualifying, he reckons he'd only be able to play half the tournaments during the year, because he said he just can't go as low as those guys.
Yeah, I mean
60s and 61s to get through on a Monday
every week.
Every single week, yeah.
Regardless of where, when, or anything, it's just they can churn that number. Yeah, it's not easy. And Brooks wouldn't exactly be a slouch, would he, in the scoring?
Is there a Monday qualifying on the European Tour, Matt?
No.
That doesn't exist now?
No, not that I'm aware of. I've never known of it exist. Not recent times, anyway. Like for the Irish Open there's qualifying being held.
In Port Marnock Links.
Weekend before, the weekend before, 23rd, 24th of May, that would have been. So there was some local guys there, like Brian Donny, for instance. He was like really gearing himself up for that weekend to practice, to try and play. I mean, Brian would be a member here as well as a pro. So for him, it would be a case of, like, how much better does it get if you could qualify and then play the Irish Open at your own golf course? I mean, that would be like a bit of a tick box scenario. Luke Donnelly as well. I mean, if Luke could qualify through various ways, I'm unsure on how a non-PGA gets in, but again, local player knows the course. If these guys can hit the accelerator that one weekend, it would have been the weekend before, you're going to run into the following Wednesday on a high of emotion, full of good golf from the weekend, and you're at your home venue. I mean, that'd be like a dream scenario for me to pick up that the following week, and that doesn't happen very, very often, I'm aware of.
Yeah, I spoke to Connor Purcell earlier on in the year. So Connor would have been ranked 9th in the world before he turned pro. In his first year pro, and they were saying that there's no sponsor exemptions at all for the Irish Open this year, which is very strange, because normally Irish squad members might have picked up an invite or through a sponsor or whatever. But he was saying that the standard of player that's going to play the Irish Open qualifier this year was going to be absolutely through the roof, because one, Port Marnock Links is obviously a course that a lot of them play during the winter series to keep their game sharp. So they know it, they love it.
Great venue for them.
Yeah, and that was, I think could be a future Irish Open venue as well.
I hope it is. I mean, it's location-wise, hotel, good golf course. Connor's a good guy up there. I mean, they've got a phenomenal setup kind of forming, and I don't see why not. I mean, the guys rave about it all winter series. Your Paul Duns, your Gav Moynihan's, Robin Dawson's here a good bit. He's the same. I mean, the quality of golf course in Ireland is, I mean, you could chuck a blanket out and find 10 of the best courses in the world. You know? So it wouldn't be the golf and courses they have to choose from is it's amazing for the tour. But I do think with the current climate that those regionals are going to get even harder, even stronger performances. A lot of the smaller tours might not come out the other side of this current pandemic, and then it might end up, you might see some of these bigger names pitching up for an Irish regional event. So the standard of golf, even from club level, pro level, is going to is going to have to improve and work.
Stroke average to win the Irish region, stroke average this year was 69.4, I believe, was Damien McGrain's stroke average across 10 events. I think Colin Moriarty's was 69.7 across 21 events. And you're kind of going, it's funny if you don't. I always feel that a lot of the younger guys, and this is kind of going off topic, but it's kind of on topic because we're talking about those type of guys. There's a lot of merit now, I think, for some guys to maybe guarantee their PGA or get into a PGA training program where they can play a lot and go and test themselves against this. Because I remember Damien McGrain ran the Irish Tour effectively, where everyone any pro that wants to play chucked in, I think it was £100, wasn't it?
Right.
And they went and they played each other in various venues, and they played for winner takes all effectively. Yeah. Depending on your status on tour, you paid more. So if you were on the Challenge Tour, you paid 200 because you could afford to, but a guy who's playing on a mini tour for somewhere is only paying £100. And his basis was, if you can't beat me and you can't beat such and such a guy, you don't need to go on tour. You need to go back and do your PGA.
Like, I always think everyone should do that anyway. I think year one, you should push yourself in your region, because if you can't get out of your country, and there is guys, I mean, Damien's a great golfer, Moriarty's a great golfer, Higgins, Thornton. These guys are class. Like, you know, and they win probably, I would say, between them, like 70% of those tournaments, maybe, as a collective.
Yeah, and financially, that's nearly. I was looking at the top five. The top five accounted for nearly €100,000 in prize money on the region last year. Like, and that's proper cash to be supplementing your coaching, and if you are good enough to win, you'll get that money, plus you'll get your PGA, your minimum wage PGA, and then you'll be allowed to go and get into Q school and whatever else, because like people don't know Q school to enter the process, €2,500. Like, it's a fortune.
Yeah. So you got to be confident, and I think having the scorecard in your hand, like I would always worded it as in, you should test yourself against the experienced guy.
Yeah.
If you can't beat the experienced guy, like you need to have a little rethink and have a readjust, and come back next year. But maybe let's just get some degree behind you, some background. I mean, fortunately when I turned pro, you had to play 7 events minimum each year in your region and be signed off that you played in those events. And if you hadn't shot scores that were acceptable for a professional to shoot, you could be put back.
That's a playing ability test every year.
Every time you pick it up. Like, you know, that was a big thing. And I think that's where, for professional golfers, and to earn merit amongst your membership, you should be able to play and hold your own, regardless if I don't play golf and I'm in the office a lot more now. I should be able to go out and still shoot a score that looks acceptable. But for those guys to then shoot scores to get into the Irish Open and still be coaching, the likes of Moriarty, Thornton, Damien, again, these guys can still mix it with these guys on the tour when they get to the PGA at Wentworth, and they're still holding down a job at the same time. And that's a phenomenal achievement for anybody. Mm-hmm. And the younger guys have to start taking them on and beating them before anything's going to change in that aspect. But nowadays,
I'd love to see someone local coming through that path. I think it'll take the likes of those 3 or 4 guys that we're talking about to actually qualify for a tour event such as the Irish Open and actually do well, and they're on the board, and people go, actually, do you know what? Maybe I'm better off. It's almost like I liken it back to the professional footballers and rugby players now who don't go to college and just go straight into academies. That's just a disaster, and this is just an extension of that to me, because they've no background.
The mentoring is a bit that's missed in golf. In my own in my own view is that when I went to Sunningdale, we were mentored by Keith. So Keith is a phenomenal golf pro. He would be kind of mentoring McGinley still through that stage. Look at the guys I work with. Jody Addison runs Sandhurst in Melbourne. Mark Pendry running Sandy Lane in Barbados. Jack Laws, he's the head pro at Le Bourd in France. Like the 5 of us, like we're at 5 of the bigger venues around the world. We're not just in one spot. So we were mentored into business as well as playing. You had to compete. So I think if these guys, if the likes of Damien that started getting some of the younger guys under their training and supporting them from a coaching and employment part of view. I mean, they may well be, I don't know enough, but I'm sure those guys have a lot to offer in experience from all avenues of life, as well as tour, as well as golf, as well as learning in the shop. I think that's where a lot of guys can learn from, and that's where I think the assistant role in the PGA has to start becoming a bit more prominent. Being able to get an assistant's quite tough. So I think once you get these guys making the steps, then once you have your Damians coaching somebody through and still making these big events, the region will be strong. And there's a lot of good people in the PGA, like even Gav Kavanagh there at Dalgany, does some great work. It doesn't go unmissed, but it's very hard to get recognised because a lot of people just wouldn't know what the guys are up to in their off time to achieve this. And with Damien and that being so good, the younger guys have really got to step their game up anyway. So I think once Damien and that, I don't know, once they maybe get hold of them and give them a really good guidance point and a shake up and say, look, lads, I've earned X playing in the region. Why are you not trying the same route I've done or gone through?
And are there any young guys you see? Are there any young guys you see coming through that are showing good prospects? Like you mentioned, also your Robin Dawsons and guys that are now getting some playing rights. But if you want to go younger again, like your Mark Power, who's also young.
Mark Power is an unreal talent, to be honest. I remember McGinley saw him and said to me, he's the best he's seen in the country since McIlroy's younger days.
I've heard that as well.
And that was when he saw him. He won back-to-back juniors, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or youth on the 16 or under 18s there at a young age. And he's a great guy, Mark. He's very down to earth. He'll come by, very polite. There's a lot to be said for that. He's a humble, good golfer.
Lovely kid.
And that's the bit that I think can go missing as well. Like
we've heard so little about him. It's mad. Outside of that area, because of, I suppose, he's in the US, obviously, which is obviously the reason.
He guided very well because there's a lot of people you hear about that aren't doing anywhere near the things he's doing or done. Okay, maybe he's hit the accelerator and he could be on the PGA Tour in a couple of years.
He's +6 now. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Mark. He's 18. He's plays out of Mount Juliet. He's in. Is he Wake Forest?
He just practices here and now and again. He's Kilkenny man, so he's. I wouldn't take any of Jimmy's lads away now. Be a rivalry down here.
Okay, that's
Mark's a good kid, and I don't want to be doing that.
He plays off plus. He's lowest handicap golfer. He's lowest handicap Irish amateur in the world, isn't he?
Wow.
He's +6, I believe.
He's a phenomenal talent, and I hope he does well. And we've got nothing but positives from our encounters with him. And it's now where these guys go from there. I mean, he's a big pond now. He's out in the US.
And he's doing well. He's thriving. I think he won one team event and one singles event. The singles event, or one of the events he won. Sorry?
It was almost one of his first events, wasn't it?
It was his first event he played. He won, which that's outstanding. I played around with him in Mount Juliet, and this was myself, Luke, Mark, and a friend of mine from work. And like Luke's a great player, but Mark was a league above, and we were on the 10th green. He easily reached it in 2, and I gave him some kind of throwaway compliment, and Luke just turns around and goes, "He's playing at like 40%." And he was like this one. He was like 5 under. I was like, this is sickening.
When you see these guys coming through, the guy would have been with Stiggy Hodgson there back in 2010. Stiggy was going to be one of the great hopes for England. Like he was at everything. Just didn't get that next step. And I think that's now where that experience comes in. And it can happen. I think Mark's background.
It's going to be playing. It's playing for money. Then it's the pressure and Connor Purcell said it to me. And Connor was obviously said 9th in the world, ranked amateur, played in the British amateur semi-final. He's beaten by Robin Dawson, I think, and the Walker Cup. And he said he loves playing for money. And he said fundamentally you have to be this ruthless bit of a killer about you. He said the amateur game is different, because you're being brought through and everything is paid for by GUI or whoever your college is. He said when you get to playing for cash and there's a scorecard in your pocket and there's no cash in the other pocket, he said it puts a lot of pressure on the pocket that the scorecard is in. Do you know that way? So that's the next step.
We had it there. That was a learning curve for us all there at Sunningdale because you gambled. Everything was gambling. Every golf. Every day. You'd gamble on your round of golf against the members. You'd double up. I remember giving out a few £100 one day and it was just like, it breaks your heart. And but at the same time, you do learn. You learn how to score and you have to learn to score quick. Like a double gets you nothing, but a bogey might save you 50, 60 quid.
That's a big thing from Ricky Fowler, saying he'll go out and play for an amount that's uncomfortable against someone who's worse than you that you're giving shots to, and it's actually Michael Jordan he plays against, oddly enough, and he because the reason being is that Michael Jordan would bet uncomfortable amounts and is willing to bet uncomfortable amounts on a round, and when he's sharpening his game up, that's what they do. Like that's in an interview quite recently because there's been so much around Michael Jordan, but that's.
Remember Sam Torrance, we played together, him and McGinley and myself. I can't remember who one was now. And Sam, we walked off the first tee and Sam says to me, I'm going to play you for 50 quid in the usual games, but it's no loss. So you can't lose, Matt. So he was basically just playing me to give me money if I won. I was never going to play him, but he didn't want
to give money.
Nothing. So it's an unlosable, basically. I couldn't lose, but
he could.
He could, and that was all he wanted. So it's a similar, like he knew I'm 23 years old. Like, what can I play him for that makes any interest? Nothing. Like, whereas, like, 50 quid to me when you're 23 living in Ascot's quite a heartbreaker if you lose.
you're looking at your rent for the month.
You're looking like, how do I get out of this situation? So that was a good learning curve. Again, experience point. You can't buy experience, and I think the sooner the old guard, so to speak, of the playing circuit do very well. Once those guys have influence enough the younger ones, that's when you'll see your next crop come through. Because as great as a GUI and the amateur scene is, like you say, it's your own cash on the line, and then it really, really hurts a bit more. So Irish golf's in a good place there. You've got so many good players, so many good courses, so many good coaches. Like,
we're lucky. We are lucky, in fact.
Definitely.
But that's brilliant, Matt. Thank you so much. I think that looped around really nicely into playing for cash in Mount Juliet, hopefully sometime this year.
Yeah, no worries. Look forward to seeing you all anyway. And stay safe.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks. You're very good with your time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Johnny, that was very interesting. That kind of went down a route that we weren't probably expecting and went on for a lot longer than we were expecting. And I suppose that's the joy of the podcast. We want to take this away from just being an interview and get into golf topics and what normal people talk about in golf. The latter part actually for me was the most fascinating.
For sure, yeah. Even from my side, I thought we'd get into the European Tour side of, will the Irish Open happen this year? Will it be next year? All the ifs and buts around that. But then once we started getting into where the Irish pro and amateur scene is and who are the kind of up-and-comers, like Mark Power and the likes of them, that's when it got, like, for me, pretty nerdy. Yeah,
I think that suits. Hopefully, our audience are into that because it's people who are passionate about the game, but there's not that much visibility on that part of the world, the kind of regional PGA side of things. And as I alluded to in the chat with Matt, it's a little bit your apprenticeship, like doing college. If you're a golfer, you've got this to fall back on. And Damien McGrain is very vocal about this. Like if he's kind of saying, if you don't beat me and you don't beat Colin and you don't beat Neil O'Brien, there is no point you going on tour, wasting all your money and wasting a load of years of your life to pursue that kind of a unicorn dream. Basically, it's like, get real. If you want to come out and play us for 100 quid a man in a 20-man field, I'll set it up and we'll go and play for cash.
We should get Damien on.
Yeah, and I'd like him to be, and he's very frank and honest, actually, when he talks about that. He's very frank and honest about how he sees the game, in terms of, like, driving ranges having 20 pros in there and everyone fighting for a small audience. And he doesn't hold any punches, and that's what you love about him. So yeah, like, have a chat with him now, and following on from that conversation would be great. But another episode down. I think that's the 5th we've cracked into. Yeah, well, gone through it quite quickly now. So hope everyone's enjoying. If you've any recommendations or people you'd like us to talk to, or things you feel we're crap at and you want to give us a bit of advice,
all feedback welcome.
All feedback welcome. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, everybody, and see you next time.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. are dancing in the pubs of Dublin. Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness. The return to glory